Hello, beautiful soul. My name is Yulia, and I'm the voice of the podcast Love to Heal. This podcast outlines my journey from atheism to Judaism, exploring spirituality from diverse perspectives. It is my hope that my journey will inspire others to embark on their own adventure of self-discovery and spiritual growth. Today's episode will conclude Season 7. I will be going out of town, God willing, to some exotic places and will need time to reflect on my Jewish adventures so that I can report them back to you. If you are in need of some inspiration in the meantime, please find me on Instagram or TikTok at Love to Heal Podcast. Let's get started. I recently had the honor of attending a Bris. A bris means the circumcision of a Jewish boy. Even though it was not my first bris, this time it was very different because I actually understood the what, why, and how, and the whole event just made a whole lot more sense now that I've attended classes with that rabbi for a couple of years and also studied on my own. This bris was for our rabbi's newborn grandson. His daughter, Mushki, was a guest recently on this podcast, actually twice in this season. And guess what? When I interviewed her, she was pregnant with her 7th baby. And our whole community couldn't wait to find out the gender because, wait for it, she had 6 sons, no girls. And this baby turned out to be a boy as well. So this was their 7th bris. Yes, you heard me right. 7th bris. But before I get into the beautiful ceremony and party that I attended, I do want to give you some background information, which is, by the way, available on Chabad.org, which is a great source that I use regularly. A bris, which is actually a Yiddish word, is the Jewish ceremony of circumcision. It marks the covenant between God and the Jewish people. It symbolizes the covenant established between God and Abraham in Genesis. This was the very first bris in Jewish history. And it was then that God asked Abraham to circumcise himself at the age of 99 and to circumcise his son Ishmael, who was 13 at that time. Once Abraham did this, God promised him and his wife Sarah that they would have a son. And after Isaac was born, God instructed Abraham to circumcise his newborn on the 8th day. This is what made Isaac the first Jew to be circumcised on the 8th day of life. And ever since then, this has been the tradition amongst the Jewish people. Bris, or otherwise known as Brit Milah in Hebrew, is considered one of the oldest and most important traditions, welcoming a newborn into the Jewish community. It is performed by a trained expert known as the mohel, and the ritual is often followed by a festive meal. The safety of the newborn is, of course, very important. So during the pre-Brit consultation, the mohel will inspect the child. And if he suspects that, for example, the bilirubin count is high, or he sees any other cause for concern, the circumcision will be delayed until he and the pediatrician are absolutely sure that there's no health risk. The circumcision typically takes place in the home of the parents or in the synagogue. And according to mystic tradition, Elijah the prophet was very critical of the Jewish people. God said to Elijah, "I vow that whenever my children make this sign in their flesh, whenever there's a circumcision, you will be present. And the mouth which testified that the Jewish people have abandoned my covenant will testify that they are keeping it." And this is the reason why the sages instituted that there be a seat of honor for Elijah at every circumcision. Then there is somebody that's called a Sandek. Sometimes this person is described as the Jewish quote-unquote godfather, but it is often a revered rabbi or beloved relative that is honored with holding the baby during the bris. The Sandek is typically seated with the baby on his lap for the duration of this brief ceremony. To soothe and calm the baby during the circumcision, a few drops of sweet red wine are given to the baby, which acts as a mild sedative or comforting agent. Following the circumcision, a prayer is said for the baby in which his Jewish name is used for the first time. This is when it's announced because, according to custom, parents are to keep the baby's name a secret until this time. Similar to a wedding, the circumcision is celebrated with a festive meal. During this meal, people may give speeches on Torah topics, especially the significance of the mitzvah, the birth of the baby, or the name that was chosen. Now, as much as we study and internalize the beautiful significance of bris, it remains beyond our understanding, like many things in Judaism. And this specific ritual expresses the bond that we have with God, which transcends the human mind. Through placing a sign of our bond to God at the place of human reproduction, we make the act of procreation into something sacred, spiritual, and special, something that is beyond the natural. And this is one reason they say that bris is held on the 8th day. Typically, everything revolves around the number 7, right? 7 signifies the rational, the natural order of things, like the 7 heavens, the 7 days of the week, etc. But 8, this is the leap beyond the limits of our world. It's almost like a peek into the infinite. Okay, so now I can tell you about the bris that I personally attended. The event took place at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday in our synagogue. Soon after Mushki gave birth to her son, she actually called me, told me that she was doing fine, the baby was great, that they were going to be heading home. And then she asked me, will you be around on this Tuesday in February, and would you be able to make this bris? And I said, of course, absolutely. Since Mushki works at the synagogue, she knows all of our community, which is why she invited everyone, especially all the families with young children, so they could experience what a bris is. She sent out an electronic invitation to everyone, and we RSVP'd and really looked forward to the event. And it's funny, you don't realize how big the community is until all these people gather in one synagogue, in one social hall, because typically when we go to services on Saturdays for Shabbat, only, I don't know, probably not even a quarter of the people come regularly. But here, tons of people came. It was absolutely packed. It was amazing to see so many families coming to support our Mushki. When we entered the social hall, it was beautifully decorated. As always, they do such an amazing job for all these events. It was similar to what you would see at a baby shower. By the way, I wasn't sure if a gift was expected or money or something else, so I did ask Mushki's mother, our Rebbitzin, and she said that it's just like any baby gift. It's completely up to the person. So my husband actually chose to gift the newborn's father a kosher bottle of bourbon because the two, they occasionally get together to try new bottles. And of course, this occasion called for a new bottle of bourbon. So that's what my husband gifted to Rabbi Shimon. And then as for me, I decided to go shopping for the baby with my 5-year-old daughter, who of course had a blast picking out the cutest clothes and toys for this baby. Now, had we chosen to gift money, we would have gifted an amount in multiples of 18. This is the number that is acceptable for all major events like bar and bat mitzvahs and weddings. And 18, it's this number that represents life, chai. So it's considered good luck, and you can do any number in multiples of 18 that you can give in monetary form. As soon as we entered the social hall, I wanted to be as close to the stage as possible where the circumcision would be taking place. So we took our seats, and I'm glad we did because a lot of people had to stand. There were not enough seats for everybody. So first, what we saw was the parents of the baby on stage, along with our rabbi, the mohel, who performs the circumcision, and the Sandek. This is the person honored with holding the baby on their lap during the ceremony. In this case, it was Mushki's uncle, our rabbi's brother. Oftentimes, it also can be a grandfather or really any esteemed individual. But this is the person that provides comfort and stability and represents a spiritual bond and the passing of tradition. Then the parents took the microphone and welcomed us, the guests, to their 7th Bris, at which everybody laughed, of course, because every year Mushki's husband, Rabbi Shimon, he always jokes that maybe the next baby will be a girl, and let's pray for that. But it was a boy again, so everybody had a laugh. And then after this, Mushki's sister, with her husband, came out carrying the baby on a white pillow. The person bringing out the baby is called a Kvatter, and usually it's a team of husband and wife who carry the baby boy into the room and pass them onto the Sandek, which will be holding the baby during the ceremony. Right before starting the ritual, the mohel turned to Mushki's husband, Shimon, and jokingly offered him the knife with which to perform the circumcision. Shimon also jokingly motioned for him to do his job, and at that moment, the mohel turned his back to us and began the ritual. So we couldn't really see anything because the mohel was standing with his back to us and the baby is so small, so you can't see anything. All we could hear was a little bit of a cry when the actual procedure took place. By the way, the knife used in the ceremony is a specialized, extremely sharp surgical knife, and it's designed for a fast, precise, less traumatic, and almost painless procedure. So the baby really did not cry a lot. Just, I would say, like for a couple of seconds, there was a little cry. During the circumcision, which lasted just about 30 seconds, we sang celebratory songs like Siman Tov and Mazel Tov. And then once the ritual was over, Mushki announced the name of the baby. Because as I mentioned, in Jewish tradition, the bris is accompanied by the naming ceremony. So we did not know the baby's name up till that moment. And the name that they chose was Shneor Zalman, in honor of the founder and first rabbi of Chabad by the same name, and also in honor of Mushki's great-grandfather, who was a rabbi here in Cleveland, Ohio. Now that we knew the name, everyone was given a printed paper with 3 prayers to say together. The first one had the English translation, and it said the following: "Just as he has entered into the covenant, so may he enter into Torah, into marriage, and into good deeds." The second prayer did not have a translation. It was transliterated, and it read like this: Hodu laudonai ki tov ki leolam hasdo, which I later found out means give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his loving kindness endures forever. And then the third prayer read like this in English: May he who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Moses and Aaron, David and Solomon, bless this tender infant, for the family has pledged charity in his merit towards a Bikur Holim society. In this merit, may the Holy One, blessed be He, hasten to send a complete recovery, and may He be raised to Torah, to marriage, and to good deeds, and let us say Amen. This third prayer is called sheberach, and it is a public prayer or blessing for an individual or group. It is most often recited in synagogue when the Torah is being read. But because it's not an officially mandated prayer, there's a lot of room for creativity regarding whom to bless or how they can be blessed. That's why there are sheberachs for just about any person in need of some divine goodness. It's important to note here that when we petition God to bring blessing or healing, it's customary to do so in merit of charity pledged, which is why the parents of the newborn pledged charity to an organization that cares for the sick. It can be any charity, but the one they chose was Bikur Holim, which I had never heard about. I didn't even know such an organization existed. And it turns out that Bikur Holim is Cleveland's safety net for Jewish families in medical crisis. Since 1988, Bikur Holim has honored the mitzvah to visit and extend aid to the sick. They help fellow Jews in need in Cleveland, as well as families traveling great distances to seek treatment in the major medical centers of our city. Once all the prayers were recited, it was time to enjoy the dinner, which is considered a mitzvah after the bris. Although my heart ached a little bit when I heard the baby cry during the moment of circumcision, I never heard the baby cry again that evening. He was completely peaceful, and he was already sleeping when the parents came down with him from the stage to join the festivities. Mushki said that's why she loves the Jewish tradition of circumcising with the parents by the baby's side, because then the mother can hold the baby right after the procedure and comfort him. In conclusion, what can I say? I wish I had given my son a traditional bris, but 8 years ago, I was as far from Judaism as one could be, and I was even on the fence about circumcision in general. Thankfully, my mother-in-law pressured me into circumcising my son at the hospital. So now, at this point, it's my hope that my children will carry on this tradition of bris through their own kids. If you enjoyed this episode and know someone who might be interested in the topic of bris, please share it. Otherwise, thank you for listening, and until next time, in the next season.